One of my first political acts was to 1961, no, it was a bit later. It was the 10th anniversary of the Republic, the Apartheid Republic. And the teachers wanted us to stand up and sing the stem. And I remained seated at school, which was quite a big thing then. I just refused to get up. And my parents were called in after that, and my father fully supported me. So those were the kinds of things, the atmosphere that we grew up in at home. There, when 1973, when the students had their protests at UWC, my father and my sisters went off to a meeting in Bonteheuwel to go there, and the students asked for help. And my father put up his hand and he offered our home as a base for where the students could operate from, because we had a phone in the house in Silvertown. And so they needed a phone to contact other centers. And so they came. The very next day they moved in. So suddenly we had our house flooded with lots of students. And Johnny Issel was one of the first people to come and to our home. Nikki Titus, Danile, Landingwe, all of them came to our home, and Johnny actually physically moved in.
And how did you start to grow as an activist? What did you, were you still at high school at that time?
Yes, I was at high school at that time. By that time, I was at Livingston High School. And as you know, Livingston High School was quite a hotbed of politics. We had people from Unity Movement. Many of the teachers were part of the Unity Movement. So the fact I kind of leaned more towards Black consciousness. And we joined at that time a movement called the South African Black Scholars Association. And you had people like Alan Liebenberg and I can't remember names now, but Terry Matthews and so forth, part of that organization. We joined the students when they pamphleteered at sometimes 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We went out to hand out pamphlets at the railway stations, telling people about protests and so forth. I remember being at Netterich station one morning, very early in the morning. And you know, the station was teeming with people. One would think that early in the morning it would be quiet, but people were going to work. And you saw, you know, we had kind of a sheltered home, sheltered from that kind of thing, because my father had a car and we had a phone at home. And so we were better off than the average poor person. So to see people with winter's morning, very, very cold, you know, when the steam comes out of your mouth when you try to speak because it was so cold, and all these people go into work, it gave me some kind of consciousness about the reality of life for the majority of the working classes in South Africa. Ironically, the teachers at Livingston wanted us to concentrate on getting an education and not getting involved in politics. That we were young hotheads and we wanted to be involved. We wanted to do something. So every protest we could, we were out there in the streets, even if it meant being chased by dogs. My father was as involved as all of us and as proud of us as I remember. He set us up to argue with his older friends about politics. And he would sit there with pride, very, very proud of his children, that we could hold an argument and that we could debate and tell people what we believed in, and still being respectful of them and their views. So, yeah.
And your time in exile, how was the transition? Because that must have also been difficult.
Oh, that was really difficult. the first 18 months we lived we lived in various places. When we got to Botswana, we found that the Black consciousness movement was very splintered there. There were several, Abram Tiro had just been killed in Botswana with a letter bomb. And he was the one that held together the Black consciousness movement in Botswana. So you go to school when your parents could afford it. So there were often people who were 20, 21 in a classroom, and I was a 19-year-old teaching older people. At the time, I taught them maths and physics. Then Cesar Mvambu was a partner with somebody called Dan Klume. And Dan Klume was an ANC NEC member. And Dan Klume then recruited Jaya and I for the ANC. So we had long discussions with him, and he said to us, look, if you find a place at the university that you want to go to, I will help you to get there. And true to his word, when we got a place in Algeria, the ANC facilitated our move to Algeria to study there. When we left Algeria, we went to Zambia, and I worked as a dentist in Zambia, but also participated in ANC movement meetings and so forth. I was responsible for, as a dentist, because I had access to resources. I helped out at the ANC clinic, but also anybody in the ANC at the time who needed dental treatment that I had to deal with, making sure that people who are coming back into the country did not have any dental problems. Because you can imagine you're underground in South Africa and you have dental problems, it would be a disaster. So that was my role, to make sure that they were okay by the time they left. They were prepared to sacrifice their lives for our struggle. So it made me more determined, to get more involved and to go back home one day. So at the time, South Africa had invaded the southern part of Angola, trying to fight off SWAPO forces. And so Angola called on the progressive world to assist, and Cuba came in and sent in soldiers, and Russia provided, the Soviet Union at the time provided Angola with weapons and ammunition and so forth, to push back this invasion of South Africans. So I always have the whole family over for my birthday. And then I said to them, I never expected to live to the age of 40 or 30 for that matter. So since I've lived to the age of 67, let me celebrate every single birthday. So every birthday gets celebrated. And I'm just grateful to be alive and to be able to celebrate. There were so many of my comrades who never got to celebrate their birthdays. Even within the ANC, there were predators, men who thought that any young woman is fair game because they're part of the struggle. And these women, older women, were the ones that made us feel safe. And we had a place where we could complain to, we could take, when we were missing our families, we could go and sit with them and talk to them. If you remember, they unbanned the ANC on the 2nd of February. So I just happened to be ill that day. So I was alone at home. I was there and listening to the BBC World Service. And there comes this announcement. All liberation movements have been unbanned in South Africa. My goodness, and I'm alone and I can't scream and shout. So I went into the bathroom and I locked the door and I was toy-toying silently, going out, but I couldn't make a noise. And I wanted to phone my husband, and uh, but before I knew it, he came in, and you know, we were laughing and crying and laughing and crying. We didn't know what emotion to feel. And we got into the car and we drove to Phyllis Snyder's house. And there again, so many people had had the same idea, South African people. There we were at our house, laughing, crying, all overjoyed that we were now going to go home. I'm not a leader. I'm just a woman, a plain, ordinary woman who believes in justice. And so don't put me on a pedestal. I made a very, very small contribution to the struggle. Thank you, but thank you for your kind words.